What is up, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Drew Hoover, and today we'll be talking about the NFL playoffs, particularly in the NFC. If you want to check out the AFC, check out my channel, subscribe to it. I'll even put a link to that video in the description below. And also, if you have any graphic design needs, check out my friend Anthony Garcia. He's the one that designed my logo. If you want to check out more and ask for his services, his link is in the description below, www.anthonygarciadesign.com. Without further ado, let's get into this. The number one seed at 14-3, we have the Green Bay Packers. And I'm not being biased, man. It's just the way the schedule is unfolding right here. They have to face a Ravens with possibly no Lamar Jackson and the Browns. And then they finish off the season with the Vikings and the Detroit. The only concern I have is maybe the Minnesota Vikings at this point, but I feel like they can pull this off. And considering how we started the beginning of the season, I'm just happy we're at this point. You know, I mean, when we lost to the Saints in Week 1 and the way we did, I really thought that all that drama that was going on with Aaron Rodgers was going to sink into the team and affect the way they perform. But I think they finally shook that off, and now they're starting to become the Packers that we saw last season. And hopefully that takes them to the Super Bowl. I'm not, I've been disappointed before. We've gone to so many NFC Championship games, since Super Bowl 45 and have lost. And especially if we have to face, Tampa Bay again, that might be, tough. But anyway, getting back to the point at hand, the second seed, who's also at 14-3, will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And again, it's just the way that the record and the way the schedule is unfolding. They have to face the Saints, then the Panthers twice, and the Jets. I mean, outside of the Bills, this is probably the easiest way to the postseason right here, winning these last 4 games. And, unlike last year when they had a slow start, they came in rolling. They got the momentum from last year, kept rolling, and, Tom Brady should be the MVP, honestly, this year. He's done an incredible job. The only problem for this team is that pass defense. I've been saying this since last year. Last year they were 21st in passing, which I thought was going to be a problem in the Super Bowl. But then again, the Chiefs also had problems with the offensive line, and they exploited it. But anyway, so I think that if you get a team like the Packers or Cardinals or even Cowboys that can exploit that, weakness, I mean, we'll see what happens. Third seed, also at 14-3, and this is one that's even a little stretch for me, but I am doing this out of good faith, the Arizona Cardinals. And this was a team that I had all my eggs in the basket in the beginning of the year before the season started. I was looking at the defense. People were questioning how J.J. Watt was going to be utilized, what they're going to do without Patrick Peterson or Malcolm Butler, who was considering retirement. But everything was going to be under control. J.J. Watt was going to step up. Chandler Jones, who was in the last year of his contract, was going to step up. Also, Byron Murphy was going to step up and replace Patrick Peterson. Also, Budda Baker was still there. So that defense really stepped it up this year, especially when, there were times when Kyle Murray and DeAndre Hopkins have been missing for some games, which they're going to lose DeAndre Hopkins again. So again, this is why I'm a little bit optimistic at this point and more instead of realistic. But they got Detroit next week, which should be a cakewalk. Don't overthink this. But then you got the Colts and the Cowboys. Like I said, 2 teams that are on fire, looking for a playoff berth, especially the Cowboys who are looking to win the NFC East. I think the defense is going to win for both of those games, and then you end off with the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be a tougher road than the other 2 I mentioned, but I think they can pull it off. And now for the 4th seed, with a 12-5 record, you got the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East. And no one gave this team credit. I knew that they were slowly getting better. I knew they had all the offensive pieces, I just wasn't sure how good this defense was going to be, how they were going to utilize Michael Parsons, and I even had questions on Trevon Diggs, who I thought was still developing as a corner, as a guy that was originally a wide receiver / kick returner in college. And all my questions were answered for me. Micah Parsons is the defensive player of the year. Trevon Diggs, if it's not Micah Parsons, should be Trevon Diggs. I mean, this team, this defense has far surpassed anyone's expectations. And if they could just stay healthy at the wide receiver position, if CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, I'm kind of talking the way I was talking about Justin Herbert and his receivers, if they can just stay after COVID, if they can stay healthy, Cowboys can make a huge push in the NFL playoffs. Now we got our divisional winners. What's our 3 wildcard teams? 5th seed at 13-4. You got the Los Angeles Rams. And honestly, they're looking after that, Cardinals win to really get that momentum, because they've had their highs and lows this season. They were high and then they were low. When you talk about the low, losing to the Cardinals the first time, and then having that loss against the Tennessee Titans, I mean, people were really questioning what was going on here. But all these trades might win it for him. You talk about Sony Michel, Odell Beckham, those 2 trades on the offensive side. Then trading to get Von Miller. I think all these pieces are going to pay off in the end. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll eventually live up to the hype that we were talking about all last season, all off season. So now we got the 6th seed, and here's our 3rd team from the NFC West to win, to get into the playoffs at 10-7. You got the San Francisco 49ers, and they're gonna, do, that defense, is again probably gonna carry this team. Jimmy Garoppolo is doing a decent job, but not putting out the offensive points we expect, especially now that we got George Kittle back for a full healthy season this year. I don't know if Trey Lance is the future or not. We saw a few flashes of him, but I think he might still have a lot to learn. But I think they got some winnable games towards down the stretch. You talk about Atlanta, Tennessee. I think that could be a game where I think they could upset Tennessee in that game, and Houston. Then they'll lose to the Rams at the end of the season, but I think they'll still have clinched the playoff berth by then. So then here comes the 7th seed, and this is where it gets interesting, because when I'm going through these schedules of all the possibilities, going through the teams that are still alive for the playoff hunt, it starts to get very close in the beginning. When I was first evaluating, I had maybe 5 teams at 8 and 9, and I was trying to figure out where all they'll land up. But then the headline hit that Washington has a bunch of players on IR, or I should say on the COVID list, and that totally changed some of the wins I put on the column and the pegging order. Because all of a sudden, this team went from 8 and 9 to going 9 and 8, and they're just going to sneak their way into the playoffs. Your 7th seed is the Philadelphia Eagles, and man, the Philadelphia Eagles, man, even on a bad year, somehow find their way into the playoffs. But honestly, this hasn't been a bad year. It's just not been great. They've had an ups and downs season, but Jalen Hurts has been showing up. Miles Sanders, that running game's really shown up. Kenneth Gainwell shows up, when he has to. Devontae Smith. And so, I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. I mean, man, that Washington thing really shaked up, everything to me. Because in the end, I probably would have had Washington keep that number 7 seed. But with Philadelphia, like I said, with Philadelphia right there, and Philadelphia has to face Washington at the end of the season, I think it's going to end up, actually they face them week 17. I think there's 18 weeks. So, yeah, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to find a way to sneak their way into the playoffs. So let us look at the NFC picture now that we know where our seeds are. You'll have the Buccaneers facing the Eagles. Good luck to you Eagles down there. You got the 49ers and the Cardinals. That is going to be an interesting game to watch. And then a rematch of the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams. Only this time, Dak Prescott has his weapons, and the Rams got a better quarterback and better weapons. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I'm right with my predictions right here. But honestly, all that matters to me is that the Packers somehow win the NFC North and maybe win the number 1 seed and get home field advantage. That would help out so much. Because like I said, when you talk about them being constantly so close to getting back to the Super Bowl the last few years, I would like for them to make that push. But then again, I've been disappointed before. Like I said, it's been since Super Bowl 45 that we've been to the Super Bowl. And so, anyway, thank you guys for listening to this video. And like I said, I'll continue to make videos. Hopefully, I'll get this out in time before the week starts off, before all these things become irrelevant. And so, please tell your friends and have a good day, everybody.